Hey there, Drowsy Historian here. Tonight you're not a war hero, or a seasoned veteran, or anyone who gets a statue. You're just a young, underfed Allied soldier on June 6, 1944, which mostly means you're seasick, soaked, and about to be deposited into the deadliest square mile of sand in modern history. The water's cold, the sky's grey, and the only thing more poorly coordinated than your gear is the operation that's sending you straight into a German machine gun nest before breakfast. Before the ramp drops, before the air fills with smoke and shrapnel, do me a small favour. Leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from and what time it is. I always love to see which corner of the world is falling asleep to these soft-spoken nightmares. If you'd like early access to these grim little lullabies, ad-free audio of the episodes, or just want to support the show, you'll find the Patreon link in the description. But for now, lie back, get comfortable, let's begin. You don't remember exactly when the briefing started. It wasn't dramatic, no rousing speech, no cinematic thunderclap, just the sound of boots scuffing on concrete and someone muttering, "All right, listen up," like this was just another drill. The room smells like wet wool and diesel. Everyone's damp, everyone's tired. You sit shoulder to shoulder with a few dozen other boys pretending to be men, packed into a converted hangar somewhere in southern England. You couldn't find it on a map if your life depended on it, which as it turns out, it sort of does. There's a large map at the front. It's been stuck to a corkboard with thumbtacks and blind faith. A man in a cap, probably an officer, though it's hard to say with the lack of medals or charisma, starts talking. He's using acronyms like their punctuation. 8 hour LZ, DD tanks, RAF sorties. You nod along with the others like it makes sense. It doesn't. He points to blobs of red and blue on the map, draws lines with a stick like it's a football match. He tells you there will be resistance, light, sporadic, manageable, the kind of resistance that folds when you look at it sternly, the kind that's already been softened up by the Air Force and the boys in the sky. You wonder if he believes it, or if he's just tired of lying with flair. Someone passes out gum. Wrigley's probably. American, like half the accents in the room. You chew out of habit, not hunger. The salt of dried sweat on your upper lip mixes strangely with the mint. It doesn't help your stomach, which has been quietly staging a rebellion since noon. Someone cracks a joke about seeing Paris by Christmas. No one laughs, but a few manage the ghost of a smile. It's the kind of joke that's supposed to be optimistic, but just feels like a dare now. The plan, as far as you can piece it together, is this. You'll load onto landing craft before dawn, sail across the English Channel like a floating armada of sheep, and then storm the beaches of Normandy. Not all of them, just one. Omaha. Sounds pleasant enough, doesn't it? The maps show gentle curves and labelled sectors. Dog green, easy red. The names sound like something from a board game, not a battlefield. You're assigned to one of them. Doesn't matter which, you won't remember it anyway. What you'll remember is the noise. They don't mention the smell. They don't say what hot metal does to a man's insides, or what seawater smells like when it's full of things that used to be people. They don't talk about what happens when the tide rolls back and doesn't just take bodies with it, but parts, limbs mostly. Occasionally, faces. They certainly don't tell you that your odds of making it to dry land in one piece are generously about the same as flipping a coin and hoping it lands on its edge. After the maps and the gum and the lies are done, they dismiss you to your cots. Though cot is a generous term, it's more like a canvas apology stretched over a metal frame, crammed into rows so tight you can smell the breath of the man next to you, assuming he isn't already snoring or praying or quietly whispering names you assume belong to someone back home. You try to sleep. You try to pretend the knots in your stomach are just nerves and not a premonition. You try not to think about how the officers never said what happens if you freeze or drown or get stuck under someone else's pack while the bullets come. You try not to think about your mother or your brother or what you wrote in that last letter and whether it was enough. The hangar lights never fully go out, just dim to a sickly orange that makes everything look jaundiced. Someone's coughing, someone's muttering scripture, someone's already thrown up into a helmet and is wiping it out with a sock. You roll over and stare at the tin roof above you, counting the rivets like they might tell you something useful. They don't. Eventually, you drift off. Not to sleep, just away. Your body does what it always does in times like this. It dissociates, pulls away from the moment, like a tide retreating before a wave. You dream about nothing in particular, just silence, the kind you won't hear again for a long, long time, maybe ever. In the morning, they'll wake you with a shout and a clatter and hand you more gear than you can carry. You'll nod, chew more gum, pretend to believe. But tonight, you're just a body among bodies, cold, tired, and too young to understand that no one here is coming back the same, if they come back at all. You're woken before the sun, though no one ever really slept. There's no trumpet, no stirring music, just boots on concrete, and the low bark of orders delivered too quickly to be fully understood. You move on instinct. You fall into line like cattle being marched to slaughter. Only the cattle probably don't carry 70 pounds of gear while they do it. A helmet, a rifle, a pack full of things someone thought you might need. Extra socks, rations, a shovel, a tiny Bible. Not included, hope. The Higgins boat waits in the surf like a metal mouth, yawning open to swallow you whole. It's small, smaller than you expected, and already soaked from waves that don't care what day it is. The ramp's down. The crew is yelling. Someone slips while climbing in and bangs their shins so hard they curse loud enough to be remembered. The salt air stings your eyes. It also smells not like the ocean from the postcards, but like diesel fuel, wet rope, cold steel, and the unmistakable stench of fear. Someone's already been sick in the corner. You try not to look at it. You pack in shoulder to shoulder with 24 other men. It's close enough that you can hear each breath, each whisper, each quiet prayer mumbled into a collar. The man to your left is already pale. The one to your right grips his rifle like it might answer his questions if he squeezes hard enough. Everyone is wet. Everyone is silent. The ramp comes up. The light disappears, and then the engine roars. You thought the channel crossing would feel like movement. It doesn't. It feels like suffering in motion. The sea is rough, but not dramatically so. Just enough to be constant. Just enough to make your guts rebel. The boat bucks like it's trying to throw you out, slamming into wave after wave, jolting your knees and spine until you're more bruised than bone. It goes on for minutes, then hours, then a lifetime, compressed into a damp metal coffin. You don't talk. You can't. The engine drowns out everything but your own heartbeat and the retching of someone 2 bodies down. He hasn't stopped since you left shore. You try not to think about it, but now the smell is in your mouth. It clings to your tongue. Your own stomach begins to roll. You close your eyes and focus on something simple. Your fingers, clenched around your weapon. You count them like they might vanish if you don't. The sea spray hits in fits and bursts. It seeps into everything. Your sleeves, your socks, your soul. It's cold and then it's colder, and then you stop noticing entirely. You're too far inside yourself. Somewhere behind the fog in your mind, you remember this was supposed to be a great crusade. That's what Eisenhower called it. A crusade. But there are no banners in this boat. No gleaming armour or noble speeches. Just grunts and gritted teeth, and a slow parade of young men trying not to soil themselves. Your hands go numb. Your feet already were. You start to wonder how long it takes trench foot to set in, and whether it counts if you're not in a trench. The boat pitches again, harder this time. A man falls to one knee. He doesn't get back up, not because he's hurt, but because it's just easier to stay there. You're tempted to join him. Your legs ache and your bladder reminds you that the last time you relieved yourself was sometime before the last goodbye. You think about peeing in place. You suspect many already have. The officer aboard says nothing. He stares ahead like he's trying to bore a hole through the future with his eyes. He doesn't look at you. doesn't check on anyone. He's somewhere else already. Maybe the beach, maybe after it. Or maybe he's just detached enough not to care. Either way, you envy him. Eventually you hear the thudding in the distance. Not thunder, not quite, but close. Dull concussions that rattle the hull of the boat, like distant gods waking up angry. It's artillery. Naval guns, probably. Maybe ours, maybe theirs. Hard to say. No one tells you. No one tells you anything. You just keep floating, forward, toward a place no one can describe in a way that matters. One man starts muttering again. You catch a few words this time. Forgive, deliver us, though I walk. You close your eyes again and pretend you're somewhere else. Anywhere else. Home, a diner, a field in spring. But the image won't hold. Your mind won't let you have it. All you see when you close your eyes is the ramp, still up, for now, still separating you from the beach and everything that waits for you there. The engine slows. The boat jerks as it hits shallower water. The crew shouts something about 30 seconds. That's the warning. 30 seconds until the ramp drops. 30 seconds until the shouting starts. Until the bullets find you. Until the map becomes a mistake. You don't feel ready. You feel sick. You feel heavy. You feel like a child wearing the armor of someone who believed in things. You grip your rifle tighter. You try to stand taller. You try not to notice the warm trickle down your leg. 30 seconds, maybe 20 now. It's almost time. And you're not ready. You don't know exactly when the screaming starts. It's muffled at first. Not like a Hollywood scream, but raw, irregular. Human. Not pain yet, not quite. Just fear trying to claw its way out of someone's throat. Maybe it's coming from another boat. Maybe it's coming from your own. And you just didn't notice until now. It doesn't matter. You hear it, and it sticks. The ramp is still up. That cold metal wall is the only thing between you and whatever's waiting out there. And it's not silence, not even close. The noise is overwhelming, but not in any one way. It's layered, disjointed, like a dozen different kinds of terror overlapping. There's the droning whine of engines overhead, the dull thump of artillery in the distance, the staccato bark of machine guns echoing off the water, and beneath all that, the sick, wet slap of waves against steel. The sergeant is shouting now, loud, guttural words meant to inspire or focus or something. You catch phrases like, stay low and keep moving and don't stop. Maybe also, you're gonna be fine, but that one might be your imagination trying to fill in the blanks. You want to listen. Really, you do. But all you can hear is your own heartbeat, pounding in your ears like it's trying to punch its way out. Fast, relentless, uninterested in comfort. You taste something metallic. Maybe it's blood. Maybe it's salt water. Maybe it's just fear turning into acid in the back of your throat. You haven't eaten in hours. Or maybe it's been a day. Time doesn't make much sense anymore. You try to swallow, but your mouth is dry and full at the same time. Like you've been chewing sand and shame. There's no room in the boat, but somehow everyone's moving, twitching, bouncing with each jolt, swaying into one another like rag dolls dressed for war. Your elbow hits someone's pack. Someone else steps on your boot. You don't even bother apologizing. You just stare straight ahead at the ramp, at the wall, at the future. Someone behind you is crying. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a soft, steady leak of breath and moisture. They're trying to keep it in. They're failing. You'd like to judge them, but your hands are shaking. You press them tighter around your rifle. It's heavy. Heavier than it should be. You can't remember if you cleaned it properly last night. You wonder if it matters. It probably doesn't. Either it'll work or it won't. Either you'll make it off the boat, or you'll be part of it, slumped against the wall, leaking into the corners like spilled oil. The coxswain calls out something sharp. Final approach. Get ready. No turning back now, like there ever was. The boat slows slightly. You feel the shift, the change in momentum. Your knees buckle a little, and the soldier next to you grips your arm to steady himself. He doesn't let go right away. Neither do you. The bow hits something. Sand, probably. Maybe gravel. It jars your spine. You think you hear the hull scrape. You think you hear bullets skipping off metal. Then again, it could just be your imagination revving into overdrive. Everything sounds like danger now. Everything is danger now. The sergeant lifts one arm and points at the ramp. He's crouched, shouting again, repeating himself now. Don't bunch up. Run straight. Zigzag. Find cover. For God's sake, keep moving. Someone near the front is muttering a prayer. Someone else is making a deal with a god they only remembered this morning. You do neither. You just keep staring, waiting, bracing. The ramp drops and the world explodes. You don't hear it all at once. You feel it, pressure in your chest, like the air's been sucked out and replaced with violence. Then come the sounds, the sharp crack of rifles, the deeper thump of mortars, the dull splash of something heavy hitting water. Sometimes a body, sometimes just a piece of one. Screams too. Too many to place, too many to track. The first men in front of you go down instantly. No grace, no drama, just erased. One moment they're whole, the next, they're red mist and torn fabric. Their gear vanishes with them, sinking beneath the water or spinning away into someone else's face. You don't even see where the shots came from. You don't need to. They're everywhere. You try to move. The plan, such as it was, involved rushing forward, straight into the surf, across the sand, toward a bluff dotted with fortifications and anger. The problem is that the ocean has its own plan, and it's not interested in coordination. The water is deeper than you expected. Your boots sink. Your pack drags you sideways. You lift one foot, and the other gets caught in the undertow. There's no elegance to it, no strategy, just thrashing. The sea is cold. That's the first thing you really feel. A slap of icy salt water up your legs, soaking your uniform, numbing your skin before the bullets even get a chance. The second thing is the resistance. Every inch forward is a battle. Not against the Germans, not yet, but against your own gear, your own weight, the dead man floating beside you whose fingers brush your leg and make you scream like a child. The surf is red before you step in. It's not metaphor anymore. It's thick, warm, and sticky. It clings to your hands when you steady yourself. You don't know whose blood it is. You never will. Maybe it's better that way. You keep moving, or try to. You fall. The wave takes your legs and your pack helps you down, like an overeager bully. You crash into the shallows, hands scraping on rocks you can't see. Your rifle smacks against something. Maybe your face, maybe someone else's ribcage. You're underwater for a moment, disoriented and blind. When you come back up, the world has moved on without you. The beach is already littered with men, in various states of wrong. Forward is the only direction, not because it's safe, it isn't, but because there's no cover behind you, and stopping makes you a target for every machine gun dug into the cliffs above. They have elevation. They have overlapping fire zones. They have experience. All you have is momentum and the lie someone told you about glory. You try to run. Your legs don't cooperate. The sand grabs at your boots like it wants to keep you. The water slows everything. Your pack feels twice as heavy now, soaked through and swinging side to side. You're not sprinting. You're stumbling. You think you hear someone yelling your name, but when you turn, the man behind you takes a round through the throat. He falls into you. You fall again. The only thing worse than moving is not moving. Stillness means visibility, but visibility means death. So you crawl, elbows in the sand, knees scraping raw. You don't think. You just drag yourself forward like some low creature from the sea, gasping and filthy, driven by fear and nothing else. The beach goes on forever. You make it 10 feet. That's a miracle. You make it another 5. That's suicide with extra steps. Around you everything is chaos. Men run, fall, scream. Some are already silent. slack-jawed, twisted, faces buried in sand that doesn't care what rank they were. A medic tries to drag someone to cover, only to get shot before he makes it 3 steps. His bag bursts open beside him, spilling gauze and morphine into the tide. No one moves to collect it. You spot the tank, or what's left of it. It's half submerged, burning from the inside. Someone is still trapped in the hatch, arms limp, head dangling over the edge, like a grotesque clock hand stuck at midnight. That was supposed to be your support. It's just scenery now. Somehow, through a combination of crawling, tripping, and divine indifference, you reach a low rise, barely a bump in the terrain, just enough to pretend you're safer. You huddle behind it with 2 other soldiers. One is missing his helmet, the other is missing part of his ear. No one talks. There's nothing to say. Bullets kick up sand inches from your nose. The wind carries smoke and the coppery tang of open wounds. You press your face into the dirt and try to disappear. Forward means death. Staying still means death. You wonder if the ocean will take you back. Nothing works the way it's supposed to. You lie there, soaked and shaking, trying to steady your hands enough to check your rifle. It's heavier now. Not because it's wet, though it is, but because it's full of sand. Every crevice, every seam, every moving part has somehow acquired a fine layer of grit. You try to chamber around. It sticks. You try again. Still nothing. You slap it, curse it, shake it. The weapon coughs once and locks up for good. The manual said this could happen. The manual didn't say what to do when it does. You glance around for the radio operator. He was a few feet away when you disembarked. Skinny kid from Illinois with big glasses and a stutter. He carried the set on his back like a metal coffin, antenna wagging like a tail. Now he's gone. Not dead as far as you can tell, just gone. Swallowed up by the surf or the smoke or the chaos. You scan for movement, for the bulky shape of the radio, for anything that looks like help. What you find instead is a boot, empty, smoking. You were supposed to land further east, that much is clear. The landmarks don't match the briefing. The bluff looks steeper. The pillboxes are too close. You can see the edge of a sector boundary flag, flapping uselessly in the wind. It's the wrong colour. Someone made a mistake. Probably several someones. You don't know who. You don't care. You're here now, wherever here is, and you're stuck with it. Your pack shifts again. It's waterlogged, dragging you backward, like it's trying to pull you under. You loosen the straps a little, but not too much. You need what's inside, maybe. Or you just need to believe you do. You spent hours packing it. They told you what to bring. They didn't mention how much of it would be actively trying to kill you once you hit the beach. The entrenching tool jabs your ribs. The extra rations are soaked through. The socks, the sacred extra socks, are already ruined. The sand beneath you isn't sand, not really. It's something worse. It clings like wet cement, swallowing your boots with every step. You try to move, and the beach fights back. Every foot forward costs twice what it should. And forward is a luxury. You're not even sure which way that is anymore. The smoke twists the horizon. The noise comes from every direction at once. Shouts, gunfire, explosions. None of it helps you orient. You could be spinning in circles and not even know it. The beach is wider than you thought. So much wider. From the map, it looked like a short dash to cover. Just a strip of open ground between the water and the seawall. Now it stretches endlessly in every direction. No man's land without a trench. You see others crawling, staggering, trying to stand and immediately falling. Some make it a few feet before going limp. Some don't move at all. Some run in the wrong direction. You're pretty sure one man is sprinting straight back into the surf. You catch a glimpse of an officer. He's standing behind a small dune, waving his arms and yelling something that might be orders. No one is listening. Maybe no one can hear him. He could be telling you to advance or to retreat or to drop dead, and it would all sound the same. You try to ask the man next to you what he thinks, but he's busy trying to untangle barbed wire from his pack. You don't bother repeating yourself. What's the point? A mortar lands somewhere nearby. Not right on you, but close enough that the ground bucks under your chest and the air turns sharp with dust and shrapnel. You taste it in your mouth. Hot metal, sulphur, and sand. Your ears ring. You blink hard. You try to shake it off. When the sound clears, you realise the man who is just beside you is gone. Not moved. Gone. There's just a crater and some scattered gear. You stare at it a second too long, then you move. You crawl. You drag your rifle, even though it won't fire. It feels wrong to let it go. You belly through sludge that used to be sand, between chunks of debris and bodies, and things you don't look at too closely. You pass someone begging for a medic. You don't stop. You pass someone praying out loud. You keep going. You pass someone face down and still missing a boot and a hand. You look away. This isn't what you trained for. The drills didn't include water this cold, or noise this loud, or men dying so quickly that their names never even get used. You thought you were ready. You were wrong. Everyone was wrong. And still, somehow, you're expected to keep going. You're off the beach technically, out of the surf at least, but that doesn't mean anything. The tide chased you out, and now the bodies have followed. They're strewn across the sand like someone tried to spell something in meat and gave up halfway through. Some float in the shallows behind you, still being rocked by the surf. Others have washed up beside you like driftwood, unmoving, limbs at wrong angles, eyes that haven't figured out they're done seeing. You didn't think this would happen so fast. You didn't think you'd be using them. You press in behind what was once a man, maybe a corporal, judging by the torn insignia, half buried in the sand near his shoulder. He's sprawled sideways, ribs caved in, jaw slack, one leg bent under him at a wrong and final angle. There's enough of him left to crouch behind. That's all that matters now. You tell yourself it's cover. You tell yourself he'd understand. You don't believe it. The wind picks up and moves the smoke. Briefly, the slope ahead comes into view. Jagged rocks, wire, debris, and those damned pillboxes. Just for a second. Then it's gone again, swallowed by haze and dust and gunfire. You glance at the body next to you. His eyes are open. One of them is clouded. The other stares directly up, indifferent to everything. You shift your weight. You try not to touch his hand. You fail. You try to think of him as an obstacle, just a shape, just terrain. But there's still a warmth in him. Not much, but enough to remind you that this isn't a battlefield. It's a butcher's floor, and you're crawling through the scraps. The ground is soaked, not just wet, soaked. The sand beneath you squelches when you shift. You're not sure if it's water or blood or both. Every inch forward smears more of it across your sleeves, your knees, your stomach. Your elbows are raw, your fingers are slippery. You clench your useless rifle and drag it forward anyway. A body behind you twitches. Just a nerve, probably. You don't check. You can't. You've already looked at too many. Most are face down now. Some are half buried. Some are still clutching rifles as if they died mid-command. A few look like they were never whole to begin with. Parts tossed here by explosions you didn't see, from boats that never made it this far. One man's boot is 15 feet from the rest of him. And you're crawling through it all. Past it. Over it. Under low wire and behind half-melted supply crates. Past fragments of men who had names and lives and dreams, and now don't even have full shadows. You use what's there. You have to. A thigh-high corpse gives you 3 seconds of shelter from a burst of machine gun fire. A shattered crate full of ration tins shields your side from shrapnel. You don't hesitate anymore. You stopped hesitating after you realised your choices were them or nothing. You catch your breath beside a body that's missing most of its face. It's not grotesque anymore. Not in the way it should be. It's just another thing that used to be alive. You realise the smell is worse now. Less salt, more rot, like the beach is already starting to digest what it's been given. Flies shouldn't be here yet, but they are. To your right, someone shouts. You turn your head in time to see a man belly sliding behind a burned-out landing ramp, trailing something that might be intestines. He doesn't cry out again. He just lies there. You count to 5. He doesn't move. You push forward, one elbow at a time. You pass another body, arms out, palms up, like he was offering something. His helmet is still on, barely. There's a hole just above the brim. You crawl past his boots. They look brand new. There's no path, no trench, no safety. Just a shifting, stinking maze of death. You navigate it the way rats navigate rubble. Instinct, movement, any cover that doesn't scream when you press against it. You didn't mean to use them, but you do. Because on this beach, bodies are buoys, and you're still not sure whether that means you're surviving or just floating a little longer than they did. You've made it 30 feet, maybe a little more. It's hard to tell. You measure distance now in blood smears and breathless lunges, not in feet or meters. 30 feet. That's supposed to be something. A small miracle, the kind of progress a general might call gaining ground. But it doesn't feel like ground. It doesn't feel like anything except pain. You're pinned. Not by a direct hit, not yet, but by the invisible weight of knowing the next move might be your last. The machine guns never stop. They just shift targets, sweep back and forth like some perverse lighthouse of death. You flatten your body as low as it goes, pressing your chest to the sand so tightly it feels like you're trying to dig your own grave with your ribcage. The bullets don't whistle like in movies, they snap, crack, bite. They sound angry. You can't see where they're coming from. You know the Germans are up on the bluff, dug into concrete boxes with names like WN62 and WN65, but you never catch a glimpse of them. The hillside is a riddle, wrapped in gunfire and smoke. The best you can do is track the effect. A helmet flying off someone's head, a patch of sand suddenly erupting near your boots, a man collapsing mid-crawl like his bones turn to jelly. You try to dig in. It's instinct. You were trained for this in theory. The problem is that the sand here isn't dry or soft. It's heavy, matted with blood and seawater, and God knows what else. Your entrenching tool is buried somewhere in your pack, which you dropped about 10 feet back because it felt like it was dragging you into the earth. So now, you use your helmet. You rip it off your head and start clawing at the beach like a dog, flinging handfuls of grit to one side, trying to make something, anything, that resembles a hole. It doesn't work. The sand just refills itself, pouring back into the shallow depression like it's laughing at you. You curse quietly and go back to lying flat. Your hands are shaking. You press them into the ground to stop the tremor, and the warmth surprises you. The sun is out now. It was behind the clouds earlier, but now it's blazing, and the sand is heating fast. You can feel it through your uniform, baking into your belly, your thighs, your neck. You're sweating. The salt stings the scratches on your face. Around you, other men are also stuck. Some move, most don't. You don't know which ones are still breathing. You don't ask. You're just part of a scattered pile now. Bodies sprawled across the beach like discarded dolls. Some twitching, some leaking, some utterly still. You can't tell which category you fall into. You're not dead, obviously, but you're not exactly living either. You're surviving by inertia. There's a burst of machine gun fire, louder this time, closer. You press yourself even flatter, though you're not sure how. Sand fills your ears, your mouth. You spit, but it doesn't clear. There's always more. You rub your eye with a filthy glove and regret it instantly. Everything burns. Everything stings. You hear someone groaning a few yards away. Not calling for help, just groaning. Long, low, involuntary, like his body hasn't gotten the message that it's over. You glance toward the sound, just for a second. He's face down, twitching. There's a crater near him. You don't know if it's new. You don't know if it matters. You look away. The beach looks endless from where you are. There's no sign of progress, no flags, no trenches, no orders. Just a long stretch of sand that gets hotter and deadlier the further you go. You remember hearing that the entire landing zone was only a few hundred yards deep, but from this angle, it may as well be France itself. You wonder how many more feet you'll get before something punches through your helmet. and ends this farce. You press your helmet back onto your head, even though it's full of sand now. You wipe your hands on your trousers. You grip your jammed rifle like it still matters. Maybe it does. Maybe it's just something to hold. You glance toward the bluff. Still can't see the enemy. Just the puffs of smoke from their guns, the occasional flash of muzzle fire, and the ongoing orchestra of death that's tuned entirely to your frequency. You think about standing. You think about running. You think about screaming. But mostly, you think about staying still, just long enough to not get noticed, just long enough to be passed over. The sand beneath you shifts again. Maybe from your breath, maybe from something bigger. You try not to think about the fact that it feels almost alive, like it knows who doesn't belong here. You press down harder. It's the only thing that listens. You were told there was a plan, a big one, the biggest, they said. Operation Overlord, the kind of name you give to something that can't possibly go wrong. Months of planning, thousands of ships, paratroopers dropped behind enemy lines, bombers softening up the beach, armor rolling in behind the infantry like the hand of God. Everything coordinated, everything precise. You were told it would work. But you're here now, and it's very clear that someone was lying. There's no coordination, at least not the kind that matters. The landing craft scattered. Some hit the beach too early, others too late. Some drifted off course entirely, dumping squads into sectors they weren't trained for, facing obstacles they weren't briefed on. You were one of them. You landed in the wrong place, at the wrong time, alongside men who were supposed to be somewhere else, doing something else. No one knows who's in charge anymore. The few officers who do try to give orders end up shouting into wind and chaos, or getting shot before they finish a sentence. The paratroopers were supposed to clear the roads inland. They were supposed to disrupt German reinforcements, take out artillery, create confusion behind the lines, but they jumped in the dark, scattered by wind and bad navigation. Many landed miles from their drop zones. Some never found their units. Some were dead before they hit the ground. You haven't seen a single one. And the bombers? They missed. Not just a little, completely. You were told the beach defences would be softened, cratered, weakened. What you got instead were intact bunkers, uncut wire, and machine guns that haven't stopped firing since the ramp dropped. The Air Force aimed too far inland. Maybe they were playing it safe, trying not to hit their own men. You suppose that's admirable. Doesn't help you though. You're still here, still stuck, still getting shredded by weapons that were supposed to be gone. And then there's the armour, the tanks, the supposed answer to everything. You were told they'd land right behind you, that they'd blast through the fortifications, give cover, create a path forward. Some of them didn't even make it out of the water. The so-called floating tanks sank like stones, victims of bad seas and worse assumptions. Others landed in the wrong place. A few actually made it to shore, only to be picked off before they could fire a shot. You've seen 2 so far, both burning. Even the tide betrayed you. It came in faster than expected, swallowing the beach and pushing bodies and equipment into a gruesome stew along the surf line. The engineers can't clear paths. The sappers can't reach the obstacles. The beach is too narrow now, and too clogged with wreckage and men, most of them not moving. What was supposed to be a clean assault has become a bottleneck of noise and death. This was supposed to be a miracle of logistics. That's what the newspapers will say. They'll print maps and arrows and words like coordination and precision and success. Maybe they'll even mention the heroism. What they won't mention is the pure, aimless confusion of it all. You've seen men wander in circles looking for their units. You've watched squads disappear up the beach only to get chewed apart and never come back. You've heard cries for medics that never get answered. There's no communication, no real chain of command, just clusters of frightened, exhausted men clinging to rocks and hoping they're doing the right thing by staying still. You know now that no one really knew what this would look like. Not the planners, Not the generals, not the men giving the briefings back in England with their tidy maps and confident smiles. They had theories, models, charts, but none of that accounts for the sheer, stubborn chaos of a real battlefield. None of it prepares you for what a human body looks like when it's been shredded by an MG42, or what a beach smells like when it's mixed with blood, seawater, diesel, and burning hair. You were promised an unstoppable force. What you got was a machine built of wishful thinking and paperwork, and now it's stalling, piece by piece, as each little failure compounds into a larger one. It doesn't matter how many men are behind you, or how many ships are out at sea. Out here, none of that helps. Out here, it's just noise. You're not angry, not really. There's no room for anger, only the quiet realization that no plan survives contact with this kind of reality. You're a pawn in a masterpiece of broken promises, and the only thing keeping you alive is dumb luck and the fact that, somehow, they haven't hit you yet. You press your face back into the sand and brace for the next lie. You've been here long enough to know there's no pattern, not one that makes any sense, not one that favours the smart, the skilled or the brave, the ones who trained hardest, who volunteered first, who recited their orders like gospel. They're gone, same as the ones who tripped getting out of the boat. There's no justice here, no reward system, just noise and heat, and the occasional horrible silence when someone stops moving. You're not here because you're brave. You're here because you haven't been hit yet. That's it. That's the whole story. Maybe you zigged when you should have zagged. Maybe the machine gun barrel was cooling down when you made your move. Maybe someone taller caught the round meant for you. You don't know, and you won't pretend to. There's no courage in crawling, only inertia. You keep moving because stopping feels worse. You don't even know where you're going anymore. There's no objective in sight, no flag, no radio, no officer yelling, "This way." Just forward, which isn't a direction so much as an instinct now. You see someone ahead of you slither another 6 feet through the muck, so you do the same. It's not strategy, it's mimicry. You move because someone else did, and you don't want to be the one still lying there when the next shell lands. Every few seconds someone tries to run. They leap from cover like it's the final lap of a race. Maybe they think they've got the angle right, the timing down, the willpower to make it. Some do, most don't. You've seen it happen enough now that you don't even brace for it. Just watch them go, then see if they keep moving. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they collapse in a heap halfway across the sand. Their momentum cut short by physics and lead. Either way, you don't follow them. Not yet. You're not that stupid. The idea of bravery feels foreign now. Something from another life. Something written in books or carved into marble. Bravery assumes you had a choice. You didn't choose to be here. Not really. You signed a form. You followed a line. You got put on a boat. That's not courage, that's gravity. And now you're here, on a beach that eats people, trying not to think about what comes next. The worst part is the waiting. That tiny space between movements where your brain catches up and reminds you that you're still alive, still exposed, still a soft target in a place full of sharp consequences. You count breaths, you count bullets, you count other men's screams. None of it helps. You still feel the pull to move, not because it will save you, but because standing still feels like daring the universe to notice you. You shuffle forward again, elbows and knees. Your rifle drags beside you, still jammed, still useless. You don't let go of it. You don't know why. Maybe it's the weight. Maybe it's the habit. Maybe it's just something to hold that isn't dying. Someone next to you is shaking, not wounded, not injured, just shaking. His helmet is gone. His eyes are wide. He's whispering something to himself. A name maybe, a prayer, a countdown. You don't ask. You just look away, not out of cruelty, but because you already know you won't see him again in 5 minutes. You'd rather not watch it happen. Further up the beach, another man is curled into a ball behind a section of bent metal. Not crawling, not crying, just hiding. Frozen, His back is to the line of fire. You know what that means. You've seen the way bullets tear through spines. You want to yell at him, but the words don't come. You stay silent. It's not your job to fix anyone. You can't even fix yourself. You hear the sharp whip of a ricochet, and the sand erupts 2 feet to your left. You don't think, you move. Down and to the right, belly scraping across something slick. A boot attached to a leg. The leg isn't moving. You keep going. You don't apologize. It's all absurd. The randomness, the rules that don't apply, the myth of valor collapsing under the weight of sand and fire. You think about how they'll write this down in the history books. Fierce resistance, heavy casualties, heroic push. They'll turn it into something clean, digestible. But you know the truth. The truth is that you're here, crawling because stopping feels like death, and running feels like suicide. You still can't see them. Not really. The Germans, the ones killing you. They're somewhere up the slope, behind reinforced concrete, tucked into pillboxes designed with clinical precision. You've stared in their direction for hours now, squinting through smoke and chaos, and you still haven't seen a face. Just shadows, flashes, and the relentless scream of bullets that never run out. The MG-42s are constant. That's what gets to you. It's not the volume or even the speed, though the speed is inhuman, each burst sounding like someone tearing fabric in fast forward. It's the consistency. They fire in shifts, rotating barrels and feeding belts like they're playing a team sport. No overheating, no stuttering, just punishment. You've heard they can fire over 1,200 rounds per minute. You believe it. You've heard everyone. The pillboxes were placed by people who understood death as a mathematical equation. Lines of fire, overlapping arcs, kill zones. There's nowhere to hide, no blind spot. Every dune, every chunk of debris, every body is visible from at least one angle, and usually more than one. You move behind a half-sunken supply crate and get shot at from the left. You shift behind a dead tank trap and get bracketed from the right. The beach isn't just exposed, it's engineered to be. It's a funnel. That's what it is. A perfect, nightmarish funnel. Everything on the German side is uphill, protected, layered. Everything on your side is open, flat and dumb. You and a few hundred others were poured onto this stretch of sand like grain, and now they're threshing you. You think about how long they must have had to plan this. Years, probably. They've been expecting you, and judging by the pile of corpses building up along the high tide line, they were more than ready. There's a low stone wall ahead, one of the few solid structures left untouched by bombardment. You crawl toward it, slowly, keeping your belly flat and your elbows tight. The moment you shift, a burst of gunfire kicks up sand inches from your shoulder. You stop. You wait. The machine gun pauses for a second, maybe switching targets, maybe reloading, and you lunge forward another few feet. You don't breathe normally anymore. You inhale in short bursts and exhale through your teeth, like breathing too loudly might get you killed. Your helmet is askew. Your fingers ache from gripping a rifle that won't fire. Your uniform is torn and crusted with things you'd rather not identify. You keep your head down and your thoughts narrower. The minefields are ahead somewhere. You know because someone mentioned them during the briefing, back when you thought words like minefield sounded dramatic. Now they sound personal. You haven't seen one yet, but that doesn't mean they aren't there. You've watched men crawl forward, hit an invisible line, and vanish in a sudden cough of dirt and limbs. Sometimes they scream. Sometimes there's not enough of them left to. You wonder how the Germans feel right now. Not the high command, not the ones giving orders, but the ones behind the guns. The ones crouched in their fortified nests, watching you through slits and scopes. Do they feel powerful, detached, guilty? You doubt it. If it were you, and the enemy was marching straight into your field of fire, you wouldn't waste time on morality either. You'd just keep pulling the trigger. That's all anyone can do in this mess. Shoot or be shot. There's no space left for thinking. You glance to your right and see someone you don't recognize, a soldier from another unit. His uniform soaked, his cheek split open from a glancing shot. He's breathing hard and blinking too much, like his brain hasn't caught up to his body. You give him a nod. He doesn't nod back. He's watching the bunkers, like he can will them into disappearing. Someone further ahead tries to throw a grenade. You don't know who, just a hand and a blur. It sails wide, lands in the sand short of a concrete nest, and explodes with a puff of dust and disappointment. The response is immediate. A curtain of bullets rakes the spot where it came from. You hear a scream, and then nothing. You keep crawling. You don't know what else to do. Every few seconds, you stop and press your face into the sand, pretending it can shield you. It can't. But pretending is the only tool you've got left. That and momentum. German engineering was always supposed to be about precision. Cars, optics, tools. Now you understand what that really means. It means the slope above you is lined with guns that fire faster, longer, and smarter than anything you brought with you. It means the bunkers don't just face the beach, they command it. It means this whole stretch of Normandy was sculpted not to stop you, but to break you. And it's working. You don't envy anyone on this beach, but if you had to pick the worst job of all, it's the engineers. Not the ones drawing blueprints back in London. Not the ones calculating loadouts in clean offices. The ones out here, the combat engineers. The poor bastards who get handed explosives and told to walk toward barbed wire in the middle of a machine gun symphony. You spot them through the smoke. Not many, but enough. They're moving differently. Fast but focused, with packs strapped high and long metal tubes clutched tight in their arms. Bangalore torpedoes. You remember the briefing, the diagrams, the promise that these things would open a path through the defences like a zipper. What they didn't say was how many men would have to die just to set one off. One team crawls to the wire, low, deliberate, barely raising their heads. You watch them slot the torpedo sections together, pushing the long tube under the tangle of steel and stakes. You can see their hands shaking, even from here. They don't yell to each other. There's no need. They've done this before, probably in training. Definitely not like this. They get it into place, they arm it. And just before the blast, one of them looks up, maybe to check the position, maybe to glance toward the sea one last time. You'll never know. The bullet takes him through the head. He slumps, and a second later, the torpedo goes off. The explosion isn't cinematic. It's low and sharp, a dirt-coloured bloom of sand and smoke that kicks a hole through the wire, wide enough for one man to crawl through. The others? Gone. One's missing half his torso, another is face down, unmoving. You don't even know how many were on the team to begin with. You just know there's a hole now, and it cost lives. You want to run for it. So does everyone else. You feel the ripple through the bodies around you, the sudden shift, the momentary flicker of hope, that maybe this is your moment. But no one moves, not right away. The machine guns haven't stopped. They never stop. The Germans saw the explosion too. Now they're focused on that gap, like it's a wound they can cauterize with bullets. Someone does go for it. A young guy, probably younger than you. He leaps up, sprints toward the hole, and gets 3 steps before folding like laundry and hitting the sand in a twitching heap. The ripple of hope dies, and still, more engineers crawl out. More Bangalore teams. You don't know where they're coming from. You didn't even see them land. It's like they rise from the beach itself, dragged forward by obligation and an obscene sense of duty. Some don't even have torpedoes, just satchel charges, hunks of explosives strapped to their chests like grim necklaces. They run up to the obstacles, plant the charges, and hope to get away before the timer runs out. Most don't. You watch one try. He's limping, dragging one leg behind him, but still moving. He gets close, plants the charge, and turns to run. He makes it 2 steps. The blast takes out the wire, and most of his body with it. His torso lands 5 feet from the crater. His helmet rolls down the slope like a souvenir. It's working. That's the worst part. It's actually working. For every engineer that gets obliterated, one manages to punch a hole. For every 3 that vanish in smoke, one leaves behind a path barely wide enough for a man to fit through. The beach is becoming a patchwork of breaches, narrow, ugly corridors of death and opportunity. You fix your eyes on the nearest one. It's just ahead, maybe 20 feet, blasted through a section of twisted steel and sandbags. You know it's a trap. You know they'll be watching it, but it's a hole, and that's more than you've had all morning. You shift position, your body protests, your legs feel like they belong to someone else. Your arms are numb from crawling, your face is cracked from sun and salt and wind. But you push yourself up onto your elbows, you test your knees, they hold. You look around, others are doing the same. A few nod to each other, not to communicate, just to mark that yes, we see it too. We see the hole, we see the chance. You take one last look at the wreckage behind you, the burned out landing craft, the scattered gear, the men who never made it past the surf. Then you look ahead again, at the engineers who tore this hole in the world and died doing it. You're not sure if you're praying for them or to them, but you whisper something anyway. And then you move. You hear the planes before you see them. A low rumble that builds into a roar, thick and steady, the kind of sound that used to mean rescue in the movies. You pause where you are, half sunk behind a shattered tank trap, and tilt your head toward the sky, expecting something. A formation, a shadow, maybe a miracle. But the sky is just a pale blur of smoke and sun, empty in all the ways that matter. Then they appear, a cluster of bombers far overhead, big lumbering things, B-17s or maybe Liberators. It's hard to tell through the haze. They look calm up there, slow, untouchable. You stare as they glide inland toward a target you can't see. A moment later, a string of distant explosions rolls across the landscape, dull and hollow. You don't feel the impact. You don't even see the dust. They missed. You don't need a map to know it. You've been watching the beach for hours now. You know where the bunkers are. You know where the machine guns are. And they're all still firing. Whatever the bombers hit, it wasn't that. It wasn't this. Someone nearby mutters, "Great timing," and then goes quiet again. There's no point yelling at the sky. It doesn't listen. It just sends shapes and noise and nothing you can use. You were told that this invasion would have air superiority, that the Luftwaffe was crippled, that the Allied planes would own the skies. But here on the ground, with sand in your teeth and bullets snapping over your head, air support feels like a rumour passed between desperate men. You hear another engine, faster, sharper, and duck by reflex. Not a bomber this time, a fighter. You catch a blur of metal slicing through the clouds, strafing somewhere down the beach. You don't know if it's one of yours. You don't know if it matters. The bullets don't discriminate. They just stitch through the air, and the body's beneath it. A man screams. You don't look up again. The sky was supposed to be your shield. That's what they said. Before you ever set foot on the landing craft, there were charts and graphs and smiling officers talking about air supremacy. They said the enemy positions would be softened up, that the bunkers would be cratered ruins, that resistance would be disorganized at best. That's what air support meant. That's what it was for. But the bunkers are intact. The MG-42s haven't stopped for a breath. The pillboxes are firing with the kind of confidence that only comes from knowing no one is coming to shut them up. You've seen no friendly strafing runs, no precision bombing, no sign that anyone in the air knows what's happening down here. They're flying over a different war, and yours is being lost inch by inch. Someone tries to signal with a flare. It fizzes upward, bright red against the grey-blue sky. You don't know what it's meant to indicate. Help, maybe, or we're here, as if that wasn't already obvious from the bodies littering the sand. The flare arcs up, hangs for a moment, and disappears. Nothing follows it. Nothing changes. You catch yourself looking up again. Habit, hope. Some part of your brain still clings to the idea that help might fall from the sky. But the longer you stare, the more the clouds, just look like clouds, empty, unbothered. You realise with a cold clarity that the sky doesn't know you're here, and even if it did, it wouldn't care. It's not that the air crews don't want to help, you know that. They're risking their lives too, flying through flacken weather and every mistake a ground officer ever made. But up there, everything looks smaller, simpler. The beach is just a strip. The bunkers are just dots. The men are just ants. There's no way they can see what you're crawling through. No way they can know where to aim. You think about the planning meetings, the maps, the long red arrows sweeping across France like destiny. How easy it all looked from 10,000 feet. How precise it seemed. But none of those maps had your name on them. None of those arrows accounted for the crater you're huddled in, or the blood drying on your hands, or the man next to you who hasn't moved in 20 minutes. The sky moves on. More bombers pass overhead, heading inland towards some other target, some other war. Maybe they'll make a difference somewhere. Maybe they'll hit a bridge or a rail line or a staff car. But not here. Not now. You stop looking up. You put your head back down in the dirt. Because here, on this beach, you've learned something no one told you during training. The sky's just another part of the terrain. And it doesn't give a damn if you live or die. You don't remember when you started crawling again. There wasn't a decision, no inner speech, just the quiet realization that lying still felt too close to giving up. So you move, inch by inch, elbows in, head low, toes dragging behind you like dead weight. It doesn't look like progress. It barely feels like motion, but it's all you've got. The body beside you twitches once and goes still again. You don't look at the face. You don't want to know if it's someone you recognise. You pass him like you've passed dozens now, without comment, without thought, like navigating around furniture in a burning building. There are too many to mourn, too many to even count. Grief is for later, if there is a later. Time has dissolved. There's no clock here, no hour markers, just the sun crawling its own slow arc overhead, the distant percussion of shellfire, and the rasp of your own breath between gritted teeth. You could have been crawling for minutes, or hours, or days. You stopped trying to guess when you realised your body hurts in ways that don't correspond to time anymore. Your hands are bleeding, not from anything dramatic. No heroic wound, no dramatic blast. Just wear, friction, the constant grind of skin against sand and stone, and fragments of what used to be people. You can feel grit lodge deep under your fingernails. Your palms are raw, fingers swollen and stiff. You use them anyway. Sand has found its way into everything. Your mouth, your eyes, your ears, your wounds. Every breath carries a faint crunch. You've given up trying to wipe it away. The grit has become part of you now, mixed into your sweat and blood and thoughts. Every time you blink, it scrapes. Every time you swallow, it burns. You pass someone missing half a leg. He's still alive, barely. His face is white, his breathing shallow, his lips cracked from thirst and shock. He doesn't call for help. Maybe he can't. Maybe he knows better. You look at him for half a second, and then you keep crawling. Not out of cruelty, but because stopping won't save him. It'll just get you both killed. There's no tactic left, no plan. Just instinct, forward motion for its own sake. You move when it's quiet. You freeze when it's loud. You keep your body flat, your head lower than your heart. Your elbows tucked close. You don't think about the next 10 feet. You think about the next foot. That's as far as your world goes now. You find yourself tracing the paths left by other men, grooves in the sand where their bodies dragged forward before they stopped. Some trails end in blood, others in silence. You try not to follow the ones that end too quickly. You look for the ones that disappear near obstacles or debris, where maybe someone found cover, or maybe not. But hope is thin, and even illusions are useful. A bullet snaps past and kicks up sand just ahead of you. You freeze. Your heart stops. Your body presses deeper into the dirt as if you could flatten yourself into the landscape and vanish. You count to 10, then 20. Nothing. So you move again. One elbow forward, one leg dragging. Repeat. There's a ridge ahead. Barely more than a rise in the terrain, maybe 2 feet high, but it casts a shadow. That's enough to make it a goal. You fix your eyes on it and begin the slow, agonizing crawl towards it, measuring distance in breaths and grunts and sheer willpower. You stop every few feet to listen, to pray, to hope the bunkers are distracted with someone else. Halfway there, your knee catches on something sharp. You don't look down. You just register the tear in your uniform and the warmth of new blood soaking into fabric that already smells like rot. You clench your jaw and push through. Pain doesn't mean anything anymore. It's just background noise. You reach the ridge, collapse behind it, press your face into the sand and gasp. It's not safety. It's not even decent cover. But it's lower. It's out of direct line of fire. That makes it precious. You rest there, not because you're safe, but because your body has issued a quiet ultimatum. Move again, and it quits. You stare at the ground inches from your eyes. There's a scrap of paper pinned under a rock. You can't read it. You don't care. You focus on it anyway, just to keep your mind from unraveling completely. Your muscles twitch. Your lips are cracked. Your fingers ache from gripping a rifle that still doesn't fire. You think about standing up. You don't. Crawling is the only thing that's worked. And it's not even working well. At some point, you make it to cover. Real cover. Not a crater or a half-buried corpse. Not a tangle of barbed wire you're pretending is shelter. Actual cover. A seawall, chipped and stained. Old stones stacked in a way that suggests someone once thought this place might be useful. You slump behind it like a puppet with the strings cut. You don't remember the last 10 feet. You don't remember crawling. You just remember the way your arms finally gave out and the sweet, shallow drop into shade. They'll call this a foothold. The official reports will say the Allies secured a section of the beach. The generals will say progress was made. But sitting here, back against the wall, heart thudding in your ears and blood soaking into your socks, it doesn't feel like a foothold. It feels like surviving just long enough to see more of the same. You don't feel triumphant. You don't feel anything really. Just the ache in your bones and the slow creeping numbness that starts in your fingertips and works its way inward. Your pack is gone. Your canteen is somewhere out on the sand. You think your rifle's still slung across your shoulder. Maybe. It jammed hours ago. You haven't checked since. Everything that was heavy is now invisible. All you can feel is the burn in your lungs and the warmth leaking from places it shouldn't. You're alive. That's it. That's the entire victory. You didn't die in the surf. You didn't get shredded by a machine gun. You didn't step on a mine or get buried by a shell or crushed under a landing craft. Somehow, despite everything, the chaos, the planning failures, the slaughter, your heart is still beating. But you've lost your squad, lost your hearing, lost your sense of time and place and direction. You couldn't name the sector you're in even if someone held a gun to your head. You wouldn't care if they did. Behind you, the beach still screams. It's not as loud now, or maybe it's just further away, but the sound never stops. Rifles, mortars, distant cries, the bark of German machine guns still grinding down men you've never met and never will. Every so often, someone makes a break for the wall, a blur of movement, a desperate run. Some make it, some don't. You don't turn your head to watch anymore. You've seen enough. Your uniform is soaked through, with seawater, with sweat, with blood that may or may not be yours. You can't tell where the cold ends and the heat begins. There's a raw sting in your thigh, a pulsing throb in your shoulder. You press a hand to the worst of it and wince. Nothing squirts out. That's a good sign. Or at least not a bad one. Next to you, someone is vomiting. Not out of pain, just from the stench. The seawall collects everything. Smoke, rot, diesel, blood, piss. It swirls together into something animal, something ancient. You try to breathe through your mouth, but the taste is just as bad. Your stomach rolls. You swallow it down. Barely. There's a puddle near your boot. You don't know what's in it, and you're not asking. You shifted a minute ago and felt a warm trickle down your leg. You didn't even register it until the heat turned cold. You're not alone in that either. The beach has become a collective confession of bodily failure. Fear doesn't care about dignity. It just empties you. Someone asks for water. Someone else laughs. A dry, cracked thing. Not amused, just broken. You don't speak. You haven't said anything in what feels like hours. Your voice feels foreign, locked away somewhere. What would you even say? We made it? It's over? It isn't. You know that much. Getting to the seawall just means you get to live long enough to climb the bluff. And behind that, more guns, more dirt, more reasons to die. A medic crouches nearby, bandaging someone's arm. You look at the dressing, at the way the blood blooms slowly through the gauze, and feel almost envious. Not of the wound, just of the attention, the care. You haven't been touched in hours, not kindly anyway. Every impact since sunrise has been a strike, a shove, a fall. You miss softness in a way you didn't know you could. Someone lights a cigarette. You don't know where they found it or how they got it lit in this wind, but the smell hits you like memory. You close your eyes and let it settle over you. For a moment the beach fades, the sun dips behind a cloud. You hear nothing but your own breath and the crackle of burning paper. You let yourself believe, for just 1 second, that you're somewhere else. But you're not. You're here, at the edge of a beach that eats men. You're alive. You've crawled through death and filth and the lies of generals. You've reached the seawall, and all it cost was everything you had. This is what victory feels like. You don't know how long you've been behind the seawall. Minutes, hours, a lifetime. Time moves strangely now, stretching and collapsing like breath between heartbeats. The firing hasn't stopped, but it's changed. Less frantic, less focused. Maybe the Germans are resupplying. Maybe they're conserving ammunition. Maybe they're just bored of the slaughter. You wouldn't blame them. You've stopped waiting for orders. If they're coming, they're not coming for you. The men around you are scattered, some wounded, some intact, all silent. No one's planning anything. No one's organising the next move. They're resting, gathering. Not for a charge, but for a moment of stillness. Not out of discipline, out of exhaustion. This isn't a unit anymore. It's a collection of survivors pretending there's still a war to fight. Someone calls for a medic. Someone else groans. A few soldiers try to light cigarettes with trembling fingers, shielding the flame from the wind with cupped, filthy hands. You smell blood, piss, and burnt powder. You breathe it all in like it's air because there's nothing else to breathe. Eventually, you'll move again. Inland, if you're lucky, up the bluff, into hedgerows and villages and other places with names you'll forget. But for now, you sit. You lean against the stone, close your eyes and let your body recover the will to keep existing. You think about the number they told you during the briefing. Casualty projections. 2,000, maybe more. And that was for the entire operation. You remember the officer trying to sound optimistic, like there was strategy behind it, a calculated risk, acceptable losses. You didn't understand what that meant until now. Now you know what a casualty looks like. Now you've crawled through the math. Later, they'll tell the world there were about 2,400 American casualties at Omaha Beach on June 6th. Some dead, some wounded, some missing. It'll go into the books, into the documentaries. It will be recited at commemorations by people in clean uniforms, holding folded flags. They'll say it with reverence, with solemnity, as if numbers could convey the mess you lived through. But no one will remember you. Not specifically. Not your name, not your voice, not the way your hands shook as you tried to dig a hole in the sand with your helmet. You'll be part of a footnote, a statistic. One grain in the beach that swallowed so many. And if you live, if you make it through this day, this war, you'll carry it with you while the world moves on. Because the beach doesn't forget, and neither will you. You think about the men who didn't even make it off the boat, about the ones who drowned before they saw land, about the engineers who ran toward explosions so others could crawl forward a few feet. None of them are famous. None of them were heroes, just necessary, just unlucky. And now they're part of the beach, the sand, the blood, the silence between gunshots. You are just one of many. That's not self-pity, it's truth. There's comfort in it, in a strange way. You weren't singled out for this. You weren't chosen. You were swept up in something too big to see from the ground, too brutal to understand from the sky. Just a body in a uniform, assigned a task, placed on a map, told to move forward, and somehow you did. And maybe you'll keep moving. Maybe you'll live long enough to leave this beach, to see France not from a trench or a crater, but from a road or a village square. Maybe you'll survive the war, go home, start a life, tell no one what you saw, or maybe you'll fall tomorrow, or the next day, or in some field that looks nothing like this one. It doesn't matter. The beach already owns a part of you. You lean your head back against the wall and feel the grit in your hair, the tightness in your jaw. The sun is higher now. You're still alive. That's supposed to be a victory. It doesn't feel like one. You don't cry. There's no energy for that. You just sit there, still, breathing, letting the weight of everything you've witnessed press down like another layer of sand. You wonder if the sea will come back for you, if it will rise again and reclaim the blood and bodies scattered along its edge. Wash it all away like none of it ever happened. But it did happen. It's still happening. All across this coast, all across this war. And you're still here. Just one of many. And that somehow has to be enough. That brings us to the end of tonight's story. Not a tale of triumph, but a crawl through sand, smoke, and the kind of survival that history forgets. If you're still awake, thank you for walking, or crawling, through it with me, and for remembering that victory doesn't always feel like winning, and that most who fought never made it into the speeches. If you'd like early access to future stories, ad-free audio of these episodes, or just want to support the show, you'll find the Patreon link in the description. You can also like, subscribe, or leave a comment with other grim chapters of history you'd like to see brought into the light. And if you're listening on a podcast app, a rating or review helps others find these stories. Sleep well.